Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen to Brian Shapiro. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Welcome all guys!
What's up, everybody? It is the Vegas Take. We're here. Don't worry. Have no worries. There's no basketball tournaments in town. I'm not taking vacation. We are here. Back. It is Mr. Shapiro alongside J.D. Sharp and, of course, Chris Wynn joining us in studio on Mondays. Good to be here. Good to be back. Took the day off on Friday checking out some basketball games. And, boy, we had a lot of big news in regards to UNLV. We will get to that, of course, coming up. Don't worry. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. He had a crazy weekend when it comes to Twitter. Even crazy for him. Yeah, it was that crazy. So we're gonna get to that coming up. But thanks for coming in, Chris. Always good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Hope everybody had a safe and fun weekend. Of course, St. Patrick's Day yesterday, Brian. So a lot of festivities going on here in Las Vegas. So I had a chance to head downtown and to bounce around Fremont Street a little bit and enjoy that. So a lot of good visuals down there. It was interesting to say the least.
I bet you did. I know you had. I know you took back a few. I know that. JD in studio as well. Mr. Sharp, how's it going? It's been a little while. I wasn't here Friday either.
Yeah, it's been about 4 days.
Yeah. Well, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well.
Well, we got a lot to talk about, and I want to start with UNLV hoops, and I want to start off with what we talked about on Thursday. We were the first people to report on the air and on social media that Marvin Menzies was going to be fired within 48 hours. So to prove that, I wanted to play a little bit of audio. This was myself, Mr. Shapiro. This was me talking on Thursday while we had a guest on, looking at my cell phone and looking at text messages that I got. Johnny, go ahead and play it. This is from Thursday night.
J.D. Sharp, I'm Brian Shapiro. I just received, by the way, some extremely breaking news when it comes to UNLV basketball. I will get to that in the next segment, but a very good source tells me that Marvin Menzies is gone, and an announcement is expected to be made on Saturday. By Saturday, very good source. So that I like to give it. Literally, I just got the text message as you were talking from a source that is very reliable. That Marvin Menzies expected to be announced that he will be fired, let go, whatever word you want to use, as the head coach of UNLV basketball on Saturday. I've heard that from several sources that I believe to be true. So, all
right. So there you go. That was what we did, JD, on Thursday. We're literally right in the middle of the segment. I would not have said that on the air unless I thought it to be 99.9% true, and we were right. And I tweeted that out, and of course there's going to be people out there that are going to attack you, right? People in the local media attacked me that night, and then they have egg on their head because the next day he was gone. Now, a month earlier, I said there was most likely a good chance that Menzies would come back. It was a fluid situation. So, of course, we're getting attacked on our social media page for that. Obviously, a month ago was a different time frame than a few days ago. So it doesn't make any sense to attack. That was their feeling a month ago. That changed. I think the racial epithets comment really hurt him and a number of other things. But I want to...
Yeah, I think the excuses coupled in with the absolute lackluster attendance really hurt him a lot.
Mm-hmm. So, JD, I agree. I want to add this story, and I'm glad Chris Wynn is here because he can verify this story with me. And then I want to get both of your takes on what's transpired, obviously, over the last couple days. But before I get to that, I want to share a story about Marvin Menzies. And whether he likes it or not, I'm going to share this story on the air. I want to tell everyone how I started my relationship with Marvin Menzies. I'm hanging out with Chris Wynn at his house. It was Easter Sunday. It was 3 years ago. This was after, obviously, they had fired Dave Rice, and we all knew Todd Simon wasn't going to come back, which I wish he did, by the way. So they were in the coaching search, okay, and Marvin Menzies' name was one of the names that popped up. So I go on the air a few days before Easter Sunday, and I say, look, I've heard from several sources, several D1 coaches, okay, those were my sources, that told me that Marvin Menzies allegedly committed some recruiting violations at New Mexico State. Didn't know that for sure. But I said I heard through a few sources that he allegedly broke some rules. I'm at Chris's house. We're watching some games on TV on a Sunday afternoon on Easter. I get a call from a New Mexico number. And who is it? Marvin Menzies. I think I looked at you, Chris, and I said, it's Marvin Menzies. I got to go in the other room.
I was thinking was maybe an ex-girlfriend that was hanging out down in Albuquerque or something. I don't know what was going on.
But I go in the other room and I talk to Marvin, and he says to me, I've heard for some people that you've been saying some bad things about me. I'm paraphrasing here. Again, this was 3 years ago, but it was along the lines of he was upset that he claimed that he never committed any recruiting violations, which might be true. I don't know. And he was so angry at me for even saying that allegedly, and I had heard from a couple people that he said, I could get my attorneys on you if you continue to talk about it. And I laughed at that because I thought it was a ridiculous comment. And I said, Coach, you're not going to get much money out of me anyway because I work in radio. So he laughed a little bit, and the conversation got a little more playful. I didn't understand. I couldn't believe that first of all, that he called me without listening to the segment. And number two, that he took the time to do that. And he's worried about what I'm saying when he's trying to get the job. I thought that was really bizarre. And then number three, it made me feel like it was true because why would he be so defensive about it? So anyway, that was our first conversation. That was the first time I talked to Marvin Menzies where he literally basically threatened legal action against me,
That's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah, it was insane. And I'm sitting there with Chris, and I tell Chris, I'm like, Chris, I think Marvin Menzies just threatened to sue me. So that happens, right? And then a couple days later, he gives me another call. And he says, he called me B-Shap, like he knew me really well.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm taking my name out of the hat for the UNLV job. I said, oh, why are you doing that? They might be going a different direction, and I'm taking my name out of the hat. Not for me. That's basically what he said. I said, okay, Coach, thank you. I appreciate that information. Thank you for calling. So a couple days later, or like 24 hours later, they announced they're hiring Chris Beard, right? And I'm thinking to myself, he didn't take his name out of the hat. He only told me that because he knew that they weren't going to hire him. Uh-huh. So already in my mind, it's funny, right? In my mind, I'm thinking, that's kind of a phony thing to say. He obviously wanted this job. Don't tell me you're taking the name out of the hat. Why are you doing that? To save face because they weren't your number one, number two, number three, number four, number five option? So I'm thinking to myself, that's kind of phoniness, in my opinion. That's phoniness. And then Beard leaves, and then they hire Marv. I'm thinking to myself, well, so much for him telling me that he took the name out of the hat. So right off the bat, I'm thinking to myself, the guy's threatening to sue me because I say something allegedly on the radio, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with saying. And by the way, I don't know if he's ever committed any recruiting violations. I know he's never been charged with any of that stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it wasn't true. But that's how my relationship starts with Marvin Menzies. And then he says he took his name out of the hat, and then he's hired a week later. So I'm already thinking to myself, what's up with this guy? Is this the right guy for this job? Okay, let's give him a chance. With that being said, he was always gracious to me. He was always nice to me. He always would shake my hand, say, "What's up, Brian?" He was always cool. He came on the radio show. He never had a problem with him face to face. The nicest guy in the world face to face. But it has always been my opinion that Marvin Menzies, at times, from what I've seen, a little bit two-faced. I don't think I'm going way out of my way. Now, you guys need to help me on this. And then we'll get to the coaching search and all that stuff. And by the way, I am on the record saying 100% the right decision. Marvin Menzies was not the right guy for the job. And by the way, one of his assistant coaches I spoke to on the phone today, I won't say who, another one of his assistants went absolutely nuts on Twitter. And we will get to that. We will get to all that information. But anyway, I wanted to share that story on the air, and I wasn't comfortable sharing it on the air when he was still the coach here.
By the way, I cannot believe that coach actually did that.
Which coach? What do you mean?
The coach, Coach Dre. I cannot believe he actually did
we have to get into that as well, too.
Yeah.
But to expand, Brian, on your point regarding Marvin Menzies and the decision, because, look, after he was let go on Friday, social media went nuts here in Las Vegas with a lot of people saying that, hey, this is preposterous that they're letting go of Marvin Menzies after 3 years. It's a mistake. They're not giving him an opportunity. It's a program on the rise, and he's a part of that. For all those people out there that were saying that, it goes back to your story, and I'm kind of going to add to it. And you just pointed it out. He wasn't the first choice. He wasn't the second choice. He was not even the third choice to be the head coach here. Okay? So those of you out there getting on your high horse saying, "Oh yeah, this is ridiculous," it's crazy to think that they should let him go. No, I think in my humble opinion, covering this team going back to the Lon Kruger days.
Yeah.
All right, there are a number of reasons why Marvin Menzies is no longer the coach here, and his success on the court is one of them. Okay, you brought up, as well as JD, the attendance situation. That alone at a program like this will get a coach bounced out.
Absolutely.
If there's 3,000 fans showing up at games, and I think that alone is going to get you a pink slip.
And I think JD would agree. Yeah, that's
but there are other factors as well too as to why Marvin is no longer the coach here.
There's multiple reasons. Attendance was certainly one of them. How about not winning basketball games? Your style of play, that was another one. How about not getting out in the community as much as you should have? Connecting with the fans. The racial epithets remark to me was probably the last straw. I don't know if he would have been fired if he didn't say that. I would imagine probably. But talking about what you just said, JD, about LaFleur. Let's read some of those tweets, shall we?
Well, let me push back a little bit, Brian. What you just said about the racial epithets, I don't think that had anything to do with it. It was wrong for him to say that.
It didn't help.
But when it comes to the whole scope of things in regards to why he got bounced out, I don't think that statement had anything to do with it.
I heard through a couple sources, and again, I don't know if this is true or not, that Friday morning he went into Francois' office and asked for a 2-year extension. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not.
Right.
So obviously, if that is true, she probably said, well, no, I'm not giving you an extension. We got to part ways. I don't know if that's true or not, but Andre LaFleur was UNLV's assistant coach. They had several assistant coaches, LaFleur one of them, not very active on Twitter to say the least. He goes on Twitter on March 16th, and here's what he says, guys, and I want to get your reaction to this. He says, the progress that was made was significant. 15 hardworking, high-character kids were sent a strong message yesterday. # shut up and dribble, shaking my head. Marvin Menzies taught them that they must earn it, and believe me, they were earning it. He goes on to say, since I have the time, I'll address a couple more things. Someone used the word doormat. Not true. Nationally, this once proud program was becoming relevant again because of Marv. I asked 2 legends how many Mountain West championships UNLV has ever won. One said 3, the other said 4. First of all, I don't even know where to begin with these comments because they're ignorant. First of all, he also went on to say that the program has been sent back 5 years. Completely not true. Don't know what he's talking about when it comes to that. This guy, is he trying to commit career suicide? He's going back at it with the fans. He's saying fans don't know what they're talking about, basically. And first of all, about bringing the program back to relevancy, it's been quite the opposite in the last 3 years.
My biggest problem with that tweet was shut up and dribble, by far.
Tell me why. Why does that bother you more than anything else?
Because it kind of says, what did LeBron James say was shut up and dribble?
So you think there's some racial connotations?
I absolutely think. In fact, I know there are some racial connotations with that statement.
Yeah,
and it kind of ties in.
You might be right. I don't know.
It kind of ties into what Marvin Menzies had said with Rachel epithets.
Yeah.
I understand exactly where you come from, JD, but as far as the overall statements, Brian, there's no evidence whatsoever to support most of what he said. I mean, as far as progress, okay, they have not sniffed an NCAA tournament game, okay? They have not been near a Mountain West championship game in the tournament. They have not been near a Mountain West regular season title or the top 3 in the Mountain West, which is completely absurd for this program in this conference.
And they've had plenty of good players.
Yes.
Brandon McQuay was a 5-star guy. Justin was a highly ranked guy. They had a very, very athletic team last year. But the thing is, Marvin Menzies over the course of his career is 3-31 against top 100 teams. How are you supposed to ever make the tournament if you cannot beat a top 100 team? You aren't. It will not take place. And it's not like he's an ace recruiter either. He's a decent recruiter. He's an average, below average, probably game plan coach, and he cannot win big games. A coach that cannot win big games will not ever make the NCAA tournament.
Or win the NCAA tournament.
No, I'm saying make with the new net stat.
Yeah, he did it at New Mexico State, but he certainly wasn't not able to do it here. And New Mexico State in the WAC is a completely different circumstance.
He won the conference at New Mexico State.
Right, but he couldn't win an NCAA tournament game.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's a valid point. And those are look. Let me be clear with Marvin Menzies, and I'm just going to unload here. And again, this is subjective. Okay, it was hard for me to pull for somebody like that. And everyone wants to talk about how Marv is the great guy, nice guy. And I get the coaching community. They all want to support each other. I understand all that. First of all, he didn't really open up his practices to the media, which is a joke. That's not something Dave Rice did or Lon Kruger did. They were very generous with the media. Very little access to practice. Why is that? I mean, there's nothing secret about your offense. I'm going to tell you something, and I'm not going to name the name, but an assistant coach in the Mountain West Conference. I had dinner with him a week ago. Okay? They're a good team in the Mountain West Conference. An assistant who I was with told me that they prepare for all these basketball teams, and he told me they played a team in the Mountain West Conference. On the blackboard, their head coach had about 25 offensive plays scouting report of the team that they were playing. 25. Guess how many they had when they played UNLV this year? Guess.
4.
Yeah, exactly. Right on the money. That's why he's a professional handicapper. 4. 4 plays. 4. Do we understand how bad that is? Their offense was horrible.
Or how easy that is to prepare for.
Okay. This is not my opinion, okay? This is an assistant coach who played in the NBA who told me that, okay? Yep. This is nonsense. The offense was a joke. It was a boring brand of basketball. He didn't connect with the fans. The racial epithets comment was just the nail in the coffin as far as I'm concerned. He was a hard guy to root for here.
And let's be honest, last year at the oxtail buffet that we had over there.
Well, hold on. Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Okay,
Give a little preface to what
Marvin
what
Menzies.
you're saying.
Marvin
Nobody
Menzies.
knows.
He drops one of the items that was on the menu there,
which was outstanding.
Stop.
By the way.
I want you to continue, but let me just explain.
Okay, explain it.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah, people don't know. Well, people don't know what you're talking about when you say oxtail. So Marvin Menzies at the beginning of this year, before the season started, invited all the members of the media to his house, which I thought was very nice, very pleasant, very nice family, very nice house. It was very nice of him to do that. And he served us some oxtail. So I just wanted to give a little bit. Okay, now continue your story, JD. Go ahead.
Well, after that great brunch or lunch or dinner, whatever it was, he basically put all of us together in a circle, and he was looking at myself and Brian and Chris going back and forth, and kind of focusing on us. And he more or less told the media to inaccurately report on what happens this year and to promote UNLV basketball in the process. He basically told us to not be hard on him for the results or in anticipation of a team that is not a winning team this year.
That's exactly how I felt when he spoke to us. Did you feel the same way?
I did get that indication that was the direction he was going. And you asked, we all asked the question before he actually had the event as to why, because we've covered other coaches, right? Other teams in other cities, in other markets. And this is not something that's transpired ever before.
No.
I've never gone over to a coach's house. Look, it'd be cool. Get a chance to roll over to Brian Hill's coach of the head coach of the Orlando Magic, or John Gruden when he was coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That would have been good times, right?
Hey guys, promote the team.
Yeah, but it's not something that I've done. And I would add to this, you guys. That's another reason why Marvin Menzies was let go, is because there was the perception that he was not as involved in the community as he should have been as the head coach of UNLV here. Look, we all understand not everybody's going to be like Lon Kruger, okay, who's been not the head coach here at UNLV for close to 6 or 7 years, yet he's still very involved from a community standpoint. Marvin was never really that guy, and especially in this sports environment now in Las Vegas, which is about to take place, where you're going to have the Raiders in town and, of course, the Vegas Golden Knights, you have to be hyper involved, I think, if you're the UNLV head coach. So that's going to be a characteristic, I think, that the organizations and the powers that be there at UNLV are going to have to look at when bringing in the new head coach here with the Running Rebels.
Yeah, and we want to talk about the coaching search, and we'll get to that in the next segment of who you guys should think should be the next coach. And I do have a little bit of information on who UNLV reached out to today and who they didn't reach out to. So I have some names to go over in the next segment as well. And if you'd like to be a part of the program, if you want to talk a little UNLV hoops with us, give me a call, 257-5396. Give us a call, 702-257-5396. We're talking a little UNLV hoops. Don't worry, we'll get to the Donald Trump news of the day. We always do that, but this is obviously a huge story. Marvin Menzies was fired on Friday, relieved of his duties, and we're giving out plenty of reasons why I think it was the right decision. And there are still people on the radio today that are saying that it was the wrong decision. And I'm telling you right now, if they make a good hire, they're going to have egg on their face once again. I'm telling you right now, what they didn't do is they didn't fire a coach midseason. That was a disaster with Dave Rice. But look, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I was never a Marvin Menzies guy. Not just because of how we started off our relationship, but the way he coached. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a horrible basketball coach. I've never said that. He was the wrong coach for this job.
Right.
Okay. He can go to the WAC, or he could go to a lower conference, some sort of mid-major, and I'm sure he could probably be successful. And I got information yesterday that he interviewed for the job at Cal Poly. So that's that they've had a lot of racial problems on that campus. There have been a lot of issues. So I don't know if that would be the right spot for him or not based on what's been going on there. But I know he interviewed. Look, he'll land a job somewhere. He just completely the wrong guy for the job here at UNLV. And I've stated that over and over and over again. You could say all you want. We had a good team coming back. We were, ready to go. LaFleur could say anything he wants on social media. Marvin Menzies just didn't get it done. He wasn't recruiting. I mean, what did he do really well here? Let me start there. Name me one thing that you think he did really well here at UNLV in his tenure in 3 years.
He deflected blame off of himself onto others.
That's not a good thing, though.
No, I agree.
That's not a good thing.
The best thing, in my opinion, he did was get Brandon McCoy to come here and also to get Shakir Houston here. Those are the two things I would point to.
Do you think he
that were
got
big
Brandon
pluses for
McCoy
him.
to come here legally? Do you think
I'm not
he paid
sure.
him?
I'm not willing to out on the air say that there's some shenanigans going on there because, look, there's every possibility there could be something like that. But that's not, if I don't have information regarding that, I don't want to kind of go down that road.
I don't know if that happened or not, but again, I know a few people that I trust very much so that said that he was. I don't know if that's true or not. I have no idea.
But I find it very hard to believe that if there was something that went down along those lines, JD, that, and this isn't an excuse for him, I'm saying, if it happens with Marvin Menzies and UNLV, it's happening a lot of places. So,
yeah,
I'm not going to convict him or accuse him of any wrongdoing if we don't have the information.
We don't know for sure if that happened. What I
Right.
do know is that he was very sensitive to the comments I made on the air 3.5 years ago and threatened legal action against me. I found that to be a little odd. I don't know. Look. Don't know if he's ever committed any recruiting violations. Don't know that for sure. I just heard through a few people that he allegedly did. I don't know. All we know right now is he's not the coach at UNLV anymore, and I think that was the right decision. I think it was the good decision. And, you're never going to be jumping for joy or be happy or laugh or all that stuff. It's not joyful, just it was the right decision. Moving forward for this university, for this basketball program, I'll say this. I went to the press conference, the Francois press conference on Friday, and she looked extremely nervous. She looked extremely tired, and she did not look like very comfortable, like she wanted to be there. What am I reading into? What does that mean? I don't know. I'm hopeful that, look, she pulled the trigger and got rid of Menzies, which I thought was the right thing. Now I'm hoping, the latter of it, hiring a good coach, hiring a coach that maybe has a lot of experience and knows how to win. She said that in the press conference, wants to hire someone that has won. I mean, she wouldn't get specifically into, how much money they have. She said the money's in place. The money, I don't know what that means, but the money is in place. So they have the money and they know exactly what they can pay somebody. Now, can they go out and can they do it? Can they find somebody? And, that's where we're going from here. But the bottom line is I truly believe no matter who they hire, I think it'll be a step up from what we've had. Just completely the wrong guy for the job. One thing about Dave Rice is he had a better out-of-conference. I mean, I can't name one real positive thing that Menzies did here. I'm sorry. I mean, look, the kids did well in school.
Oh, that's
okay?
And that was an interesting point, wasn't it,
Yeah.
Brian and JD? That was brought up. I don't know. Was it brought up by assistant coach LaFleur or somebody talking about the GPA of the team as if that's something that when it comes to you're judging results of a college basketball program, that's something that's a huge factor.
Well,
Look, it's very noble to say
it is
that.
relevant to
absolutely.
a degree.
But it's a very noble thing to say, and it doesn't necessarily
but
have
is a team with 6 guys with 4.0s going to put 5,000 to 7,000 fans or 10,000 to 15,000 fans in the seats? Absolutely not.
It's a good question.
Yeah, well, and we're going to talk about the coaching search coming up next, but let me just give out a little bit of information that I got today. I got some information today that UNLV reached out to a guy by the name of Kenny Payne. Kenny Payne.
Yeah, ex backup quarterback here at UNLV.
I said Kenny Payne because somebody on my social media said, I wish it was Kenny Payne, not Kenny Payne.
I think that was Chris.
Of course, Kenny Payne.
It was me. Yeah. It was ESPN Sports Center slinger, Kenny Mayne.
So the former UNLV quarterback, by the way,
Yes.
now Sports Center guy, good guy. Yeah. Kenny Payne, he is a longtime assistant at Kentucky. So I know that they reached out to him, and I'm also hearing maybe Richard Pitino could get back in the mix. That's a possibility that she might be reaching out to a mid-major school.
What, Richard Pitino?
Yes.
He's at Minnesota.
I can't even imagine
that's not
Richard
a mid-major
Pitino
school.
being a viable. Richard Pitino, if they go that road, you guys, that Richard Pitino is a step down from Marvin Menzies, in my opinion.
I think he would be a very good hire.
You think Richard Pitino?
Yes, he's done well at Minnesota. He recruits well. Absolutely. He finished off the year very strong.
He finished that year very strong, but Minnesota hasn't been
they're in the
top 4 in the Big Ten at all since he's been there. They haven't been.
He's been in Minnesota for what, 5 years, 4 or 5 years?
I think it's somewhere around there.
They were ranked top 25 for 2 years straight for a little bit. He's done pretty well there. It would definitely be a step up from Marvin Menzies.
I don't think, Chris, I kind of disagree with you. I don't think it'd be a step down from Marvin Menzies. I mean, maybe that's not saying much, but I'm just saying.
Again, you're talking about putting him in this atmosphere of UNLV basketball. It's not the Big Ten. Okay, so the expectations being elevated for him, I don't know. I just, in my own personal opinion, I don't think we talk about this job and fits with college coaches, I don't necessarily know if that would be a quality fit for this team in this town.
Well, we're going to talk about that. What type of coach, and we'll take some phone calls on this. What type of coach do you think UNLV should go after? What are the coaches, some of the names that are allegedly in the running right now, and some of those people that I've talked to? So I'll give some of those names out and my opinions on what type of coach I think Desiree Francois will be hiring. So we'll get to that much, much more. Oh, yeah, we're also going to get into Donald Trump and his Twitter feed. He went nuts even by his standards over the weekend. I mean, it was absolutely nutty, crazy weekend for Donald Trump's Twitter. So we'll talk about that coming up in hour number 2. But I do want to get to the coaching search. Who do you guys think would be a great candidate? We'll ask Chris and JD coming back. I'll give you my thoughts on that as well. And, of course, we'll also take your calls at 257-5396. Again, that number to call, 702-257-5396 is the number to call. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Check us out on Twitter, at The Vegas Take. If you were on our Twitter page Thursday night, then you saw the news before anybody else saw it. Marvin Menzies losing his job. We posted it on Thursday night, and then Friday, boom. I was told within 48 hours. That was less than 24 hours. That was pretty fast. So check us out on Twitter, again, at The Vegas Take. And if you want to be a part of the program, 257-5396. Again, that number to call, 257-5396, alongside J.D. Sharp and Chris Wynn, who joins us every Monday and did a great job filling in for me when I couldn't make it last week as well. Appreciate that. Ron Futrell actually did a fantastic job filling in for us too, J.D. He did a good job with Susie, so we appreciated that on Friday as we were covering the Mountain West Conference. Okay, so now we're in a situation. Who is going to be the next coach? And I put odds up. They're just for fun, guys. I'm not a bookie. Okay, I've had people on social media say, "Hey, can I get $5 on Pitino, or can I get $5 in the field?" Listen, guys, I'm not a bookie. Okay, it is for entertainment purposes only when I put the odds on to be the next UNLV basketball coach. But I did put some recent odds up there from some front runners who I think could be getting the job. Kenny Payne, I put him at 2-1 just because they contacted him today. Thad Matta, I got him at 3-1. Mike Miller, 5-1. Jason Kidd, 8-1. Ty Lue, 10-1. Calvin Sampson and Steve Alford, 15-1. Pitino, 100-1. Then I got a couple funny ones in there. Dave Rice, 150-1. Reggie Theus, 1,000-1. Danny Tarkanian, 1,000-1. Those are just for fun. Yeah. Put a few fun ones up there. But I do think Kenny Payne could be a big front runner right now. I do. And the number to call, 257-5396. Why don't we take a couple calls on this, see what some of these callers think. Let's start with Fernando talking a little UNLV hoops. What's up, Fernando? How's it going?
Things are good. What a weekend. I went to every tournament game here in Vegas, and I am tired out. But I think the Washington Huskies cheerleaders, they're the best. With that said,
I think it's a fair assessment.
Let's roll off Sister Jean out there to the UNLV bench. She'll work her magic. We'll win 30 games, and we'll be in the Final Four.
How old is Sister Jean?
I think she's about
100.
All right, well, we got to take care of her health then if we're going to do that. I don't know if her heart could handle
Is
sitting on
she
the
seriously 100 years old?
She's up there, yeah. She's up there.
But anyway, Desiree Reed, she's a disaster because on that press conference I watched.
Yeah, I was there.
Very, very uncomfortable, not steady. And then she said, winning one title in 20 years is great. No, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not great.
4 or 5 would be great.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say she's in over her head. I'll tell you one thing. Even if it wasn't her decision, the decision that was made, Fernando, was the right one on Friday. So let's.
Yeah, and she forgot to fire Kathy Olivier, too, because Kathy Olivier's been here 10 years, and she has accomplished 0.
Well, Tina Kunzer-Murphy is still. Tina Kunzer-Murphy is, in my understanding, is still a special assistant to the athletic director. She's still on the payroll, too, but. Here's the thing. Let's just assume, Fernando, what you said is right, and I don't know, but let's just assume that Francois has no idea what she's doing. Let's just assume that for a second. It still might not be her decision who hires this next coach. There's probably a lot of other entities and a lot of other people involved. They can still make a good hire, Fernando, regardless of that, can't they?
Sure they can. A new coach comes in. His first season, he goes 16-14. Second season, he goes 15-15. Are we going to going to fire him right away, too?
That depends. That's a good question, but that depends on a lot of different variables. Number one, what type of kids is he recruiting? Number two, what is his out-of-conference strength of schedule? Number three, how good is the Mountain West Conference tournament? Fernando. And
number four, how is attendance?
Right.
How is he integrated into the community, and does he make excuses?
Right. So there's a lot of other variables that go into it, Fernando, I think.
And the other thing, Desiree doesn't know how to add or subtract because she said, 20 years of title. No, it's been 29 years, going on 30. And
that's a good point.
Vegas is not a dream job no more. It's not at all.
Wow.
We've been irrelevant for the last 30 years.
I wouldn't say. I'm going to disagree with that. I'm not going to say UNLV was irrelevant when Lon Kruger was here. They were consistently a top 25 team. They were winning Mountain West Conference tournament games, and they were also winning NCAA tournament games. And if you recall, they got to the Sweet 16, Fernando. So I disagree with that comment. You're being a little harsh on Francois. Maybe harsher than we usually are on UNLV, but I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, in fairness to her, look, the uncertainty and the unsureness that she portrayed at that press conference, she's relatively inexperienced when it comes to these types of situations, right? She was an assistant athletic director at Virginia Tech. That was not her in her job description to be making decisions regarding head coaches or assistant coaches. So this is something that's relatively new to her. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying that
I'm going to give her a chance.
You have to take that into account. Yes.
I'm going to give her a chance, guys. And I'm going to say the right decision was made on Friday. Let's hope another right decision is made, and I will give her full credit for it, even if she wasn't the one responsible for making the decision. 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Go to Joseph. Joseph, thank you for calling in. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. What's on your mind?
I've just been following your guys' Twitter the last few days, and I really like what you guys are saying.
Thank you.
We both kind of argued with a couple of people regarding Dave Rice.
That's true.
And what their thoughts were. One quick question. I just want to know if you think UNLV needs to be wary about a potential new coach kind of using the UNLV offer as leverage a la the Chris Beard situation.
Well,
I don't know how you think they could stop that.
That's a very good point, Joseph, and I don't know how you can stop that. We know what happened, you remember, quite frankly, with Mick Cronin. He used this as leverage. Heck, Rick Pitino used this as leverage years ago. Unfortunately, Joseph, that's part of the business. I don't think that can stop you from doing what you do.
And that's more the agent than the coach.
In a way, it is the agent. I would tend to agree with you on that one, but I think when you look at some of these names that I just released, like Kenny Payne, who I've received some information, they reached. He's not going to use UNLV as leverage because he's not a head coach. I don't think he would do that. And I think the coaches that use stuff as leverage are the ones that have been a head coach for a while, that are making boatloads of money and want to make more money. Usually those are the type of coaches that are going to use something as leverage. I think in Chris Beard's situation, he truly wanted to work here. And then once that Texas Tech job opened for him, boom, it was off you go. So, I don't think Beard did that. Mick Cronin certainly did do it. And I don't think, Joseph, to answer your question, if you're UNLV, you can't really be too concerned about that. You just want to hire the best possible coach for the right amount of money. I hope that answers your question.
Awesome, it did. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Joseph. Appreciate the call. Number to call, 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Sitting next to two very distinguished gentlemen in studio, J.D. Sharp and Chris Wynn, who Chris Wynn, of course, fills us in all the time on his Caveman Keno winnings. So we'll have to talk about that in hour number 2 as well. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Kelly. Kelly, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Good. This is my first time talking to you guys, but I've listened to you quite a bit.
Thank you.
I'm originally from northern Nevada. Was a Nevada fan for a long time. Then my son came here to play at UNLV baseball.
Oh, okay.
So we got hooked up with the basketball thing, and it was a blast going to the games. But my concern is, I loved it when Lon Kruger was coaching.
So did I.
That was great.
Yeah, he's a fantastic coach and even a better person.
Yeah, and, UNR always picked great coaches. Sonny Allen, He had the guy that went to Stanford. He had the guy that went to Georgia that was successful, Mark Fox.
Yep.
And I just don't think that UNLV's taken the time to find the right guy, like what you were saying.
Well,
UNR did to brought in an NBA guy.
Musselman was a slam dunk for you guys, but I would be very, very worried if he is going to stay there. I know from what I've heard, and I know a lot of people personally that even work for him now, that tell me how demanding he is as a basketball coach. He doesn't care whether you have a family or not. You're in there at 8 a.m. and you leave at 10 p.m. every day. That's what I've heard. And it shows with his work ethic. But I've heard that from some pretty good sources that he wouldn't mind being the coach here. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but look, no doubt, Muss has done an unbelievable job at UNR. By the way, they play Florida, if I'm not mistaken, in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Florida.
Yeah,
and then we got Michigan after that, which is going to be tough as hell.
Yeah, you guys got a tough bracket.
But anyway, I've enjoyed watching UNLV basketball. I was one of those guys that, would go to the games anyway, even whether Nevada was playing UNLV or not, because the atmosphere at UNLV basketball is fun.
It used to be. It used to be.
It used to be. And then I didn't like the Menzies hire either. I'm with you, too. I don't think he can coach. But and the other person I liked was Dave Rice, but I think you guys brought him along too fast.
Yeah,
Hell of a recruiter, but when he went to the NCAA tournament, he got out-coached every time.
Well, I didn't bring him around too fast, so don't blame me for that.
Well, okay, I won't.
I was. Anyone who's been listening to me on the radio for years, and by the way, thank you for the call, Kelly. I appreciate it. Good to hear from you. Thanks for calling in, first-time caller. I was the first one. I shouldn't say the first one, but one of the few that was not a big Dave Rice guy on the air, and I expressed that, as you know, Chris.
Dave Rice did not have a short period of time in today's climate in college basketball. 1, 2, 3 years is going to be enough, given, all the kids that are either one and dones or, have aspirations to play professionally, whether it's in the NBA or in Europe, so quickly that, transition of college basketball programs turns over much more quickly. So the expectations, I think, are higher earlier on.
Yeah, I agree. 257-5396 is the number to call. We're talking a little UNLV hoops in studio with Chris Wynn and my co-host J.D. Sharp. Again, 257-5396. Let's go to J.D. J.D., thanks for calling in. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Enjoying the discussion. I'm going to give you a little history lesson, if I may. Bob Maxon used to belong to my health club. And he didn't know who I was from Adam, but I knew who he was when he came in, if you remember, back in the 90s. And Mr. Maxon, on 2 occasions in the locker room, I overheard him say, "I'm going to fire that son of a bitch no matter what it is I do." He's referring to Tarkington.
Uh-huh.
And so he had a vendetta, and I believe ever since then you've seen just a fiasco of occurrences, one after the other.
That's an understatement.
Raleigh, Massimino, and on down. But I think 2 of the biggest mistakes are this last AD and the one prior to her.
Jim Lavengood, you're referring to Jim Lavengood and Tina Kunzer-Murphy. Yes.
Correct. They had no qualifications. They showed Murphy was in there too long and proved nothing, done nothing, did nothing. She should have been gone after 3 years. And this one is another joke. I think I disagree with you on one thing of all the things you said. I know you guys have been hard on Dave Rice. Here was a guy who was a team player, a great practice player on the 30 on the UNLV championship team, and then the 30-0 when they got the game stolen by the referees against Duke.
Yes,
he was a natural, good guy, young guy, energetic. He did have a 667 winning percentage. He won.
You're talking about Dave Rice.
98 games.
All right, JD, let me go.
And lost only 54.
Okay, hang on the line
here.
I
believe that's the guy they should have stuck with.
You're talking about Dave Rice. You think they should have stuck with him? Is that what you're saying,
Correct.
JD? Okay, let me address that. Hang on the line here, and then I want to get you guys. And that's a fair point. Here's why Dave Rice got fired. Okay, he didn't do anything in March. He didn't get the maximum out of the talent he had. He had Rashad Vaughn. He had Zimmerman. He had Anthony Bennett. He had Christian Wood, a wealth of talent. And many of these guys, if they're not in the NBA, are making money to play basketball somewhere. He had a top 25 team when he took it over in year 1. When Lon Kruger left, that was year 1 when he beat North Carolina, the number 1 team in the country here at the Orleans Arena. That team should have been a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8 team. You know who told me that? Mike Mosier, who played on that team. He said they had enough talent to have made a real push in the NCAA tournament. Dave Rice never won a Mountain West Conference championship. He never even came close to winning the conference regular season, and he never won an NCAA tournament game. He had the talent. Ryan Miller and Todd Simon did a fantastic job recruiting. You cannot, and let's keep in mind, look, let me be fair, JD, and let me say this. I would rather have Dave Rice than Marvin Menzies here. You know why? Because Dave Rice had a really good out-of-conference schedule. He still won more games. You're right about that, and the conference was better back then. But if
what he needed? You know what he needed, Brian?
What's that?
He needed Tim Gergerich on the bench.
Well, that could have been a help, no doubt. But I'll tell you what he needed more than anything. He needed to be a little tough. And I don't think he, as a head coach, when you have a guy that takes a 35-foot contested jumper, and yeah, Christian Wood took a lot of those, and you got a guy with the talent of Christian Wood, you have to take his ass off the floor and ream him out like Musselman does.
Oh, Brian, one other thing. I still haven't got my tickets for the Hilton. I mean, for that show.
All right. Well, if that was a long time ago. Okay. Well, I got to call my girl on that one for you, and I promise we'll take care of you on that. Okay.
All right.
All right, bye. JT. Take care. Bye bye. 257-5396 702-257-5396. If you call in and you win something, it is very, very important that we give you the tickets to that event. So we apologize for that, JD. 257-5396. You guys agree with me on that as far as what I said in regards to Dave Rice?
Oh, without question. I want to have one crazy take when it comes to Dave Rice and success in March, both Brian and JD. How about this? You have the number 1 pick overall in the NBA draft, and they don't win any tournament games. I mean, that to me is kind of a consensus as to, of what went on with Dave Rice here in his tenure at UNLV. Yeah. And it's not just, I'm not just talking about Anthony Bennett. He had a number of players. You brought up Mike Mosier, by the way, who was also an excellent player that he had. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's just a load of talent here at UNLV when Dave Rice was here, and they still were not able to be successful whatsoever in March.
I want to bring up a guy that his name has popped up, but apparently from what I've heard through my sources, they have not contacted him, and that would be Mike Miller, who, Chris, you interviewed on this show last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking to some people about Mike Miller, and this is what I've been told, again, through sources, that if you hired Mike Miller here, okay, Mike Miller, if you hired him here, here's some of the players that you would get. Arguably the top high school player in the country, Jalen Green, would play for Mike Miller. McDonald's All-American R.J. Hampton from Texas would play for Mike Miller. And one of the top freshmen in the country, right in our backyard of Findlay, Dior Johnson, would play for Mike Miller. Those are 3 guys that I guess are really tight with the Millers, with Mike Miller. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is a hell of an argument. You get those 3 guys, you have the best class, not only in the Mountain West Conference, but arguably one of the best classes in the country. And those are guys that I have heard that would play for Mike Miller if Mike Miller was hired here. The fact that they have not even contacted Mike Miller yet, and I know it's early in the process, the fact that they haven't even contacted him yet, to me, is absurd. That's absurd to me. I'm going to tell you right now, I would support that hire for a lot of different reasons. Now, I know Mike Miller's never been a head coach before. I get that. I understand that. That's taking a risk, right? That's the worst part of it. He's never been a head coach before, and you can throw that at me all day. I'll say you're right. That's an issue. However, let's remember who his brother is, Ryan Miller. Who I mentioned all those names that Dave Rice got. Guess who got those guys? Most of those guys. Ryan Miller.
Yes.
He would come back here and be Mike Miller's assistant. Okay. Mike has a wealth of knowledge, NBA experience. He's a name. He is a name. He's a former NBA All-Star. So you bring in those types of kids, to me, that's a huge selling point, is it not? Those 3 kids that I just named, it's a huge selling point, isn't it?
Well, a big selling point, right, and JD and Brian, is that Mike Miller falls into that category of coach that has been successful at every level as a player, okay? And I think I'd put Jason Kidd in that category as well, too. Mm-hmm. A guy who, when it comes to that recruiting process, he's going to garner respect from kids, and I think it's going to be beneficial to a program. In Mike Miller's case right now, it's at Memphis, of course, with coaching with Penny Hardaway, but at any program that he ends up going to. And I think the same thing can be said for Jason Kidd. Now, obviously, Jason Kidd has head coaching experience in the NBA, so that's a plus for him. But there's that category of coach that we're talking about, and the possibility of bringing in here at UNLV, and Mike Miller fits into that kind of category of ex-player that would that has coaching instincts and is someone that can succeed that way, but also has the credibility as a player.
We did have a listener. I just want to say we had a listener on social media say, did Chris Wynn just say breast conference? You didn't say, you said press conference, right?
Press conference,
okay, just clarify that. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, JD.
Was that really relevant, Brian?
Hey, somebody on social media.
I wasn't at Mardi Gras last night, okay? I was down on Fremont Street on St. Patrick's Day, okay? So that discussion, was it a slip of the tongue, maybe? Possible. Could happen.
With a guy like Mike Miller, he does have all those things you just mentioned, but he was also an outstanding shooter. He was an outstanding offensive player.
I think outstanding is an understatement.
And I think the team will be very, very good and efficient offensively with him as head coach.
Well, we saw that. Didn't we see that, you guys, at the WAC conference final, of course? Who's the head coach of a team that was in the final? It was Dan Marley.
Dan Marley, yeah.
It's not. It won't be a surprise if Mike Miller comes in.
And I think that would translate, especially with guys highly ranked, as you just mentioned, because they already have that ability.
Those are 3 top guys that I just mentioned. And I just posted on Twitter in the last hour this information that I received from a source that if Mike Miller did come here, those are the players that would come with him, allegedly. And people are going nuts on social media. They're saying it's a slam dunk. Why are they not contacting Mike Miller? That's the information that I heard, and from a really, really, really good source.
And it's a good question to have, though, because you're talking about what type of coach do you bring in here, right?
Right.
There's those coaches, and then there's the other guys who have been head coaches, whether it's Fred Hoiberg, whether it's Thad Matta, whatever. Those type of guys are kind of in a different category. So it'll be interesting to see what direction they do go.
And Mike, he's actually very, very active on social media, which all these young kids really look at.
Yeah.
He has almost 500,000 Twitter followers, which is a major step above anybody else.
Yeah.
That's even in the conversation right now.
What's really sad to me
and
is
that really translates.
The only UNLV basketball that JD has seen in person has been this year, which is sad because he doesn't. And I told him, I said, JD, do you see how loud it is in this arena? When we were watching the Mountain West Conference tournament at the semifinals, pretty good crowd. And I said, this is what UNLV games used to be like. It's not like that anymore. Walk into the Thomas and Mack now, 3,000 people in there. It's pathetic. It's a joke.
Well, here's the ugly truth, though, Brian, is that the sports landscape here in this town has just changed dramatically just in the last 12 to 24 months. And once the Raiders get here, obviously, that's going to even make it more difficult.
And once the Raiders get here, and they're very, very good, and free agents start wanting to come here for tax reasons, and, it's great to live here. You're going to see this town become a winning town. And once you have the Knights, you have the Raiders, you have maybe an NBA team, considering the fact that summer leagues are selling out 19,000 tickets with ease.
Yeah.
If UNLV is not good, they will not be relevant at all not just nationally, not just regionally, in Las Vegas, in their town.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, considering they won a national championship 30 years ago.
Yep.
And we, myself and Chris Wynn, even though I think he might have been using your credential, JD, we were at the WAC.
It's JD all weekend.
Yeah. So we were at the WAC finals.
The shorter, stockier kind.
Right, exactly.
We went to the Mountain West Conference finals, and then we went over, and I was going to go to the Pac-12. But we decided to go to the WAC finals, which was Grand Canyon University, and they were playing New Mexico State.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe what a wonderful job the fans did traveling. A lot of Grand Canyon fans are out there, a ton of New Mexico State fans. And I'm saying, we can't get more than 3,000 people as UNLV fans in the arena, and people still want to say today on the air that Marvin Menzies should not have been let go. You are a buffoon if you have. I'm sorry. Look, I shouldn't say that because there are people that disagree with me, and that's fine. They can disagree. I shouldn't call them a buffoon. But there are a few people that did want him back.
No, just keep calling them buffoons. It's great.
They are.
It's really good for our show.
Well, guys, didn't we have discussions all season long about UNLV and their student section, Brian? How about the student sections at the championship game in the WAC with Grand Canyon? Team was getting beat down in the second half, JD, and those fans were still going bananas, and there was thousands of them there.
And see, that's what an enthusiastic, inspiring coach can do for a student base.
Yes,
and that's what Dan Marley did.
But you think about UNLV, there's a handful of people there at games in regular season against teams like Nevada or teams like New Mexico.
There was a game when there was literally 7 students in the student section.
That's
7,
unacceptable.
and they couldn't even spell rebellion.
That's bad.
That's
they
beyond
could not
unacceptable.
spell rebellion on their shirts.
That's really bad. That's not good.
Yes, and that's one thing you got to fix.
Well, I think a big problem right now is that you've got you had a dad or a mom or a family with 2 kids who, before the Knights came here, would go to the UNLV game.
Right.
But now they go to the Knights game. And there needs to be a happy medium there.
Yeah. Well, maybe there's no racial epithets at Knights games. I don't know. Maybe. Sorry, I had to poke the bear. I had to poke Marv one more time. I'm sorry. Nobody's gloating at the fact that Marv was fired, but I will say this, and we got to take a break, but I will say this, it was the right decision. Okay, coming up next, you're not going to believe what Donald Trump said on his Twitter page. Even bad for Donald Trump. We'll get to that coming up next. You're listening to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.